When I was 17, my parents sat me down in our cramped kitchen and told me that I wouldn't be going to college. Not because I didn't want to, not because I didn't try. I had spent 3 years dreaming of the day I could leave Pine Hollow, a sleepy mountain town in Colorado where dreams didn't grow, they withered. I had filled out every application form, stayed up late studying for exams, and even gotten accepted into a small liberal arts college 2 states away. But that morning, over burnt toast and instant coffee, my mother simply said, "You're not going." My father didn't even look at me. He just nodded and added, "It's time for you to contribute. Miles needs the funds." Miles, my younger brother, was only 6 then, 11 years younger than me. The golden boy, the miracle child. After years of hearing, "We just can't afford another mouth," suddenly my mother got pregnant in her late 30s, and everything changed. The sun rose and set on Miles after that. Before he was born, I had once felt like the center of their universe. They used to braid my hair, take me on drives up to the lake, call me their little explorer. But the moment Miles arrived, I became the helper, the spare, the one they could lean on but never lift up. I remember trying to laugh it off when they first said it. "You're kidding, right? I've already been accepted. I have a dorm assignment." But my dad's voice cut through me like frost. "You're not a priority, Talia. We only have enough for one future, and Miles is it." They didn't say it to be cruel. At least I don't think so. They said it like someone choosing between saving 2 houses from a fire. They chose the one with new paint. I packed my bags that night, not because I was angry, though I was, but because I couldn't stay and pretend this was normal. I wasn't going to spend my life being the backup plan. I didn't want to become one of the women in town who spent their lives serving others, forgotten by 30. The only person I could think to call was Marcus Greenfield. He and his wife Lily owned the Lakeview Inn, a small but cozy lodge near the base of the mountain. I hadn't seen them in years, not since we stayed there one summer before Miles was born. Back when my parents still smiled at me. I dialed the number with shaking fingers. Marcus answered on the second ring. "Talia?" His voice was warm, familiar. "Is everything okay?" No, I wanted to say, "Nothing is okay," but instead I whispered, "Can I come stay for a while?" There was no hesitation. "Of course, sweetheart, come home." Come home. Those 2 words cracked something inside me. I boarded the evening bus with a backpack, 2 worn notebooks, and a train ticket I'd never use. I didn't know what waited for me at the inn. I didn't know if Marcus and Lily still remembered me as anything more than a guest, but I knew I had to go. Because when the people who gave you life decide you're not worth investing in, you either accept their version of you, or you rewrite the story yourself. The Lakeview Inn sat just off the main road, tucked between tall pines and facing a silver-blue lake that mirrored the sky. The air up here smelled different, cleaner, sharper, like pine needles and promises. The town I left behind clung to the past. This place felt like possibility. Marcus met me at the front steps, his arms open, his smile real. His salt and pepper beard had grown out a bit, and his old flannel shirt looked the same as I remembered. "You made it," he said, pulling me into a hug that didn't feel like pity. Lily appeared moments later, wiping her hands on a flower-streaked apron. She was smaller than I remembered, but somehow warmer. Her eyes softened when she saw me. "You've grown up, Talia. You look just like your mother, but better," she added with a wink. I tried to smile, but my throat tightened. I didn't want to cry. Not here. Not in front of people who had opened their home to me after a single phone call. "Come on in," Marcus said. "We've got room 5 ready. It's got a view of the lake." I spent my first night at the inn staring at that lake, barely sleeping. I wasn't sure if I belonged there or anywhere. But in the morning, Lily knocked on the door with a tray of scrambled eggs, toast, and hot cocoa. "You don't owe us anything, sweetie," she said gently. "But if you feel up to it, I could use some help folding towels after breakfast." That's how it started. Towel folding turned into helping set the breakfast tables, which turned into checking in guests, which somehow turned into assisting Marcus with inventory in the storage shed. No one expected perfection. No one rolled their eyes when I didn't know how to work the reservation system. Marcus just showed me. Lily just laughed and said, "We learn by doing here." Every week, I learned a new task. Every night, they sat with me at dinner like I belonged at that table. Not once did they ask for rent or how much I could afford. One evening, as I helped Lily carry fresh sheets upstairs, she paused and said, "You know, we always wanted kids." I turned to her, unsure how to respond. "And then we met you," she added simply. I blinked. "Me?" She nodded. "You showed up when we needed something to love, and maybe, just maybe, you needed someone to see you." No one had ever said that to me before. Later that week, Marcus took me aside. "Lily and I were talking. There's a community college about 15 miles from here, Flexible schedule, small class sizes. If you still want school, we'll figure it out. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face before I could stop them. Good, he said, patting my shoulder. Then it settled. And just like that, my new life began. Not with a big announcement, but with small acts of quiet kindness. At the inn, I wasn't someone's mistake or someone's burden. I wasn't the daughter who didn't go to college. I was Talia. I was becoming something, someone, on my own terms. 13 years passed, quietly, steadily, like ripples across the lake. By then, I had earned my associate degree in hospitality management and risen to become the operations lead at the Lakeview Inn. I knew every creaky stair, every leaky faucet, every returning guest by name. The inn had become my home, and I had become its heartbeat. Marcus had slowed down. Lily spent more time tending the garden than running the kitchen. They began calling me boss, half-jokingly, but there was a weight to it, a trust, a future being quietly handed over one breakfast shift at a time. I thought I had left my old life behind, until they showed up. It was just after noon on a Tuesday. The lunch crowd had come and gone, and I was helping a guest check out when I heard the front door creak open behind me. Talia. The name hit the air like a stone in still water. I turned and froze. Standing in the doorway were my parents, Doug and Regina Emerson. A little older, a little grayer, but the same steel in their posture. My stomach sank. Their eyes scanned the lobby like they were looking for something they had misplaced, or something they expected to own. It's been a long time, I said flatly. My father didn't bother with greetings. Why haven't the payments come in this month? My heart stopped. I beg your pardon? The monthly transfer, my mother said, clutching her purse like it might explode. We didn't get it. Miles has tuition due. What's going on? It was like being sucker punched by a memory I didn't know I still carried. I looked toward the hallway, hoping to see Marcus, some anchor in the sudden storm. As if summoned, he stepped into view, wiping his hands on a dish towel, his eyes narrowing at the sight of my parents. Doug, Regina, he said coolly, you weren't expected. We're here about our arrangement, my father said. Talia agreed to send money each month. That hasn't happened. Marcus's voice was steady. Correction, I sent the money, on Talia's behalf, out of her pay, but that stops now. My mother's voice rose. You can't just decide that. We made a deal. No, Marcus said calmly. You exploited a child and hoped no one would call it what it was. The only deal we had was temporary. Miles is grown now. There is no more excuse. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. I had known Marcus had sent some money over the years. I never asked how much or how regularly, but I didn't know it had become expected. Miles is starting culinary school in the fall, my mother snapped. How do you expect us to afford it? You mean like how you expected me to give up college so he could have a future? I said quietly, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. My father looked at me for the first time, truly looked. I could see the flicker of something, confusion, regret, or was it just calculation? He's your brother, he said. And I loved him enough to leave, I replied. A long silence. Then Marcus dropped the bomb. Actually, he said, Miles reached out to us last month. He sent in a resume, interviewed by phone. We've hired him. My parents blinked in unison. You what? I stepped forward. He's starting next week, at the inn. It was the first time I'd ever seen both my parents completely speechless. For once, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. The door creaked again. This time it was quieter, hesitant, almost polite. We all turned toward it. And there he was. Miles stood in the doorway wearing the new staff uniform. His collar slightly askew, his name tag crooked, but his posture upright. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me first, then Marcus, then our parents. Well, he said with a faint smile, this is awkward. Regina gasped. Miles, what are you doing here? I told you I was starting next week, he replied, his voice calm. I moved in early, got some orientation today. You can't be serious, Doug barked. This job, this place, it's beneath you. Miles let out a short laugh. You mean like it was beneath Talia when you sent her away? Our parents looked like they'd been slapped. I don't understand, my mother whispered. You were supposed to go to culinary school in San Diego. Yeah, I bombed my application, Miles said simply. Didn't tell you. Thought you'd lose your minds. Guess I wasn't wrong. My father stepped forward. We've invested so much in you. Private school, tutors, programs. Your sister didn't need those things. That's the problem, Miles snapped. She did need them, but you never looked back once you had me. Regina's lips quivered. We just wanted what was best. No, he cut in. You wanted what made you look good. For a moment, the room fell silent except for the ticking of the lobby clock. Then Miles turned to me. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it, for staying silent, for benefiting from everything they took from you. I blinked, speechless. I'd imagined this moment 100 different ways over the years. None of them ever sounded like this. I reached out to Marcus a month ago, Miles continued. Told him I didn't want to become another version of them. I asked for a job, said I'd start from the bottom, no shortcuts. Marcus nodded proudly from the hallway. Lily had now stepped beside him, arms crossed but eyes gleaming. Doug looked desperate now. You can't throw away your future over guilt. Miles took a step toward him. It's not guilt, it's choice. You made yours 13 years ago when you tossed Talia aside. Now I'm making mine. And this place? Regina sneered. This is your idea of a future? I'm not here forever, Miles said. I'm here to learn, to cook, to grow, and maybe, just maybe, to rebuild something with the only person who's ever loved me without expecting anything in return. He turned back to me, his voice quieter now. You still saving like crazy? I nodded slowly. Of course, why? Because there's a culinary school about 30 minutes from here. Smaller, affordable. Marcus already looked into it for me, but I can't afford the rest without help. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and opened my savings app. Miles's eyes widened as he saw the number. Are you serious? I've been saving for something that mattered, I said. Looks like you just showed up in time. Tears filled his eyes, but he didn't let them fall. Instead, he hugged me. For the first time, not as siblings caught in a family war, but as two survivors choosing to walk out of the fire together. The next evening, the inn's kitchen buzzed with quiet purpose. Dinner service had ended. The guests were relaxing by the fire or strolling near the lake. Lily had gone upstairs early. Old knees and full hearts, she'd said with a wink. Marcus lingered for a while, wiping down the counter and humming softly, before finally heading out with a tired wave. That left just me and Miles. He stood by the stove, sleeves rolled up, brow furrowed in focus. In front of him, one cast-iron skillet, 2 cracked eggs, a handful of mushrooms, and fresh herbs he'd picked that morning from Lily's garden. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Careful, I teased. You burn that, Lily will revoke your herb privileges. He didn't look up. Already burnt once. That's why I'm making a second batch. I smiled. Perfectionist? No, he said, glancing up. Just trying to make a memory worth keeping. We sat at the tiny corner table in the staff kitchen a few minutes later. 2 plates, 2 mugs of hot tea. The air smelled like butter and rosemary. He handed me a fork. Tell me what you think. I took a bite. It was simple, but perfect. Balanced, honest. The kind of food that didn't try to impress you, but stayed with you long after. Miles, I blinked. This is amazing. He exhaled, shoulders dropping. I needed to hear that. We ate in silence for a while before he finally asked the question that had been lingering between us. Why did you save that money? I took a sip of tea. Because no one saved for me. He paused. I knew, I continued, that one day someone might come along, someone who deserved a door that was never opened for me, and I wanted to be ready when that happened. He stared at me, eyes glassy. You really think I deserve it? I know you do, I said without hesitation, but that's not even the point anymore. You chose this path. You looked at what they built and said, no thanks. That takes guts, and I'll support that any day. He looked down at his plate. Culinary school's going to be tough. It's a 2-year program. I'll need to live in the dorms. Commute's too long. I figured, I said. I looked it up. We can cover the tuition and housing with what I saved. I'll send you a monthly stipend, too. You'll be okay. Talia, his voice cracked. That's too much. No, I said softly. What they did, that was too much. This is just me being the sister I wish someone had been for me. He wiped his eyes with the corner of his apron. Then he reached across the table. Packed? He said. I raised an eyebrow. You help me get through school, he said. And when I graduate, I'll come back here. We'll build something. A cafe by the lake, or a full kitchen for the inn. I'll run it, you manage it, equal footing. I stared at him. Deal, I said, reaching out and shaking his hand. That night, we made more than dinner. We made a pact between 2 people who had every reason to give up, but chose to believe that love, rebuilt, could still be real. The sun dipped low over Lake Halcyon, turning the water into molten gold. I stood by the reception desk, watching as a group of weekend guests packed up their cars. The laughter of children echoed across the parking lot. Somewhere behind the inn, Lily's wind chimes played a tune only the breeze understood. Miles had been gone for almost 4 years now. Culinary school, externships, weekend pop-ups in the city. Every few weeks he sent a photo of a new dish, a burned pan, or a proud grin after finishing a long shift. He was finding himself, one plate at a time. I had stayed. Stayed to manage the inn. Stayed to keep the lights warm and the doors open. Stayed because, for the first time in my life, it felt like I wasn't just surviving. I was building something. That afternoon, Marcus called me up to the second floor. His steps were slower now, but his smile hadn't aged a day. He stopped in front of the last room on the left, the only one with a brass plaque and no number. The legacy room. "This used to be our wedding suite," he said, fumbling with a key. "No guests allowed, too many memories, but we've been thinking." Lily appeared beside him, carrying a box wrapped in a ribbon. Inside, a set of keys, a thick leather-bound logbook, and a note that simply read, "For the one who stayed." I blinked. "Marcus, what is this?" He didn't answer, he just opened the door. The room was flooded with sunlight, a four-poster bed, a writing desk by the window, fresh flowers in a mason jar. Everything felt timeless, safe, permanent. Lily stepped forward, voice quiet but steady. "We're retiring next spring. Florida, maybe. Somewhere flat and warm. But this inn, this place, it needs someone who knows every creaky floorboard and every returning guest's coffee order." I swallowed. "You're asking me to run it?" Marcus smiled. "No, sweetheart, we're asking you to own it." I couldn't speak. For a long time, I couldn't even breathe. Because once, I was the girl whose future was sold off to fund someone else's dream. Once, I was the child left behind while her parents drove away with their real investment. And now I was standing in the middle of a room that symbolized trust, love, and legacy. "Are you sure?" I whispered. Lily laughed softly. "We've never been more sure of anything." I nodded, tears slipping down without resistance. Later that week, Miles returned, taller, tanner, with calloused hands and a glint in his eye that hadn't been there before. We sat by the lake, dreaming up menus, sketching out plans for the cafe he'd open in the garden. "We'll call it the second course," he joked. "You know, like a second chance." I laughed, but I knew it was more than a pun. It was the truth. Our parents never reached out again. Rumors say they moved to a quiet town 2 states away, whispering excuses and avoiding mirrors. But I let that part go, because I no longer lived in the shadow of what they did. I lived in a home I helped build with people who chose me freely. Every morning, when guests asked why I always seemed so joyful, I gave the same answer. Because every single day, I wake up in a life I built on my own terms. And that's a kind of wealth no one can take away. Some people are born into families, but never truly chosen. Some wounds take time, kindness, and the courage to walk away, to finally begin to heal. Talia was once the forgotten daughter, the backup plan. But she didn't let that define her. She chose to leave. She chose love, the kind that builds, not breaks. She built a home, not out of blood, but out of trust. And if there's one thing this story reminds us, family isn't always where you come from. It's who shows up and stays. So if you've ever felt left behind, if you've ever had to fight to be seen, remember this: you can begin again. You deserve a life built on your own terms. Thank you for watching this story all the way through. If something in it touched you or reminded you of your own journey, consider subscribing. We share more real healing stories just like this one every week. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. You never know whose heart it might reach. We'll see you in the next chapter, because all of us deserve a second course in life.